like to, excuse me, I'd like to bring the Planning Commission meeting to order of October 21st, 2015, excuse me. And with that, would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here. It's a good turnout. I'm sure you're not here particularly because of a cell tower pole. I think you have other interests in mind. I think I can assume that. But with that, we will start with Planning Commission business. First, any reports from staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to note that Commissioner John Latore is participating in this evening's meeting by telephone, and as such, under the Brown Act, any votes that your commission takes this evening will be done by roll call. If the public has any difficulty hearing Mr. Latore when he speaks, we do have the microphone next to the conference telephone, but please let me know and we can see if we can turn that up for you. Otherwise, I'd just like to advise the commissioners that we do have 2 rezoning projects scheduled for November 4th. So we do plan to have a meeting that evening. I don't know that we'll have anything for November 18th. But for sure we will have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay. Any reports from commissioners? None. All right, seeing none. Report from the Board of Supervisors Planning Committee representative.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing? Okay. Report from the Ag Advisory Committee representative, of which we do not have a representative. However, I was taught a long time ago, never ask somebody to do something you wouldn't do yourself. Therefore, I have filled out an application, Ms. Shane, and whether or not it's approved, nevertheless, I'm trying. Okay, minutes of the meeting of October 7th. Any corrections or additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, roll call.
Oh, yes.
Call a roll.
All right. A motion has been made by Commissioner Frazier and seconded by Commissioner Mosley to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission's meeting of October 7th with no, as presented. As a roll call, those in, roll call, Commissioner Mosley.
Yes.
Chairman Plan.
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Prezabella, right?
Aye. Prezabella. Pretty good.
And Commissioner Latore.
I vote yes.
Okay, there were 5 affirmative votes, no one against, so that motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Item 5, and I think that's the reason for most people are here, has to do with the procedures when we hold a public hearing on the Dollar General affair. Now, we're not discussing Dollar General tonight. We are merely discussing what the procedures will be for that hearing, because it appears there's going to be a fair, to understate, a fair amount of interest out in Columbia regarding this issue. And so we need some procedures that everybody understands to start with, so they know how this public hearing will be held. Now, we do have a suggestion by the staff on what the procedures will be, which are essentially the procedures we've adopted years ago and have used on a lot of different hearings. What I'd like to do tonight is have the commissioners discuss this and make some changes. I can think of one substantial change perhaps we will make, and then invite the public before we adopt them to give us their input if they disagree or agree or whatever on what the commissioners are proposing. Is that all right? Cully? Okay.
Yes.
All right, John? John?
Yes, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. And Peter Rye has just joined us.
Sorry to be a little late.
It's all right. And so with that, Ms. Shane, you want to go over what is being proposed to start with?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Establishing procedures for a future public hearing is not unprecedented. Your Commission has adopted procedures you use every meeting, but when we have these projects that have a large number of people who are interested, we have brought this before the Planning Commission and also the Board of Supervisors before the meeting in order to do, as you said, Mr. Chairman, establish some ground rules so that when we mail out the notice of the date and time of the hearing, we can advise the public at that time of what those rules are to hopefully avoid some frustration on the part of the public that they weren't aware if they were going to be limited in the amount of time they have to speak, or again, they didn't understand what the rules would be. So that's the intent of why we are discussing this evening. It's really as a way to notify the public of how we plan to conduct this future hearing. I want to stress that the hearing has not yet been scheduled. We will talk about that a little later just to see what the availability of the commissioners. But at this time, we would be looking in December at the earliest. We will not schedule this for November, that's for sure. So we are looking at December. Okay. So what I have proposed in my memorandum to your commission is that you would open the hearing as you normally do. You provide time for a staff report. In this case, I'm recommending that we set about a 15-minute time frame for that presentation by staff. Staff summarizes the project. In this case, we have prepared a mitigated negative declaration for the environmental review. We would summarize the findings, mitigation measures, and we have received substantial number of comments on that document and summarize those as well for your commission. Throughout this process, as you know, your commission always has the right to ask questions. So you would certainly ask questions of staff at that time about any of the presentation or any of the materials that you've received or any other aspects of the project. The next item on the list would be to provide time for the applicant to present the project and to describe the project in greater detail. Again, this has been afforded to other applicants in the past. This is certainly not required of your commission to allow this.
Why don't we just stop there for a minute if we can. I feel that is, of course, up to the commission, but that item should be eliminated. I don't think the applicant necessarily needs 15 minutes to tell us about the project. I'm sure we're going to have a binder about that thick.
Yes.
I think we will know a fair amount about this project before it ever gets to the meeting. And also, I think there's a perception that if the applicant gets 15 minutes to propose his project, then the opposition should get 15 minutes to oppose a project. But in this case, I don't know how the logistics that would work. I think to be fair to everybody, that we ought to eliminate that 15-minute proposal for the applicant to make his presentation. Do I have any support?
For the most part, don't applicants usually just stand up as a proponent?
Yes. The reason that we have done this in the past, and the chairman's right, is that they were usually large projects like Mountain Springs and Peaceful Oak Estates, where you're talking hundreds of parcels with an environmental impact report, and so a lot of additional information, or again, opportunity to present the greater details of the project. This is a 9,100 square foot retail building. So it's not a complex project. There are, again, there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, but the project itself is actually rather simple.
Peter?
I would agree.
Yes, I would agree. I think that
All right.
is fair.
John, you okay with that?
I have to say I have mixed feelings about it. I think I'll wait till a little further down in the discussion to give my view on that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just set that one aside momentarily. Okay, continue on, Ms. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After either the applicant does or does not have that opportunity, the commission again has the opportunity to ask questions about the project. At that point, you would invite the public to present testimony. Your normal practice is that those in favor speak first, followed by those in opposition. Then anyone who is neutral, neither for nor against, has the opportunity to speak. And then you ask for rebuttal by the proponent. So only those who spoke in favor can speak in rebuttal. And only those who spoke in opposition has the opportunity for surrebuttal. Surrebuttal is to address the rebuttal, not to introduce new issues. I am recommending that each speaker be limited to 3 minutes, and that if you do not use your full 3 minutes, then that's up to you. You cannot then give your time to someone else. This has been asked in the past. This commission and the Board of Supervisors has been adamant that 3 minutes or 5, however much time there is, goes to that person only. It cannot be given to someone else. During the testimony phases of the hearing, your commission, of course, can ask questions of any of the speakers. And then once you have completed the rebuttal portion of the hearing would be closed. And then the project comes to your commission for deliberation. During deliberation, you can ask questions, you can ask for additional information, you can decide to continue the matter to give you more time to review the testimony that's been presented. So at that point, the ball is literally in your court to decide how you want to handle your decision. And then again, once you complete your deliberations, you will be making a decision. This is a site development permit and a conditional use permit. You are the decision-making body. And then your decision is appealable to the Board of Supervisors. So that's the procedures in a nutshell. The hearing itself. The next item I had for you to talk about tonight too is that your standard procedures are that you conduct 4-hour meetings and that you have a curfew. Right now it's 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I think there may be 100 people or more to speak. So we are proposing that we relocate from this room, which has a limited capacity, to a larger venue in the Columbia area. We have checked on the availability of the Faith Hall at the Church of the 49ers in December, and there are dates that is available. The elementary school is another potential venue. If the Faith Hall is not available, the Faith Hall has a capacity of 250 people. We have used it in the past for other hearings, and frankly, it's much more comfortable for the public than the elementary school. So that's why I'm leaning towards that. But you think about 100 people potentially to address your commission, 3 minutes apiece, and we know it's always more than 3 minutes, because by the time they get to the podium, we start the clock, we end it, you ask questions. It's more like 5 minutes on the average per speaker. So it's going to take more than one night in all likelihood. And so the question would be, how would you continue this? If you are available, I would certainly recommend that you continue to the following evening, if possible. If not, then we'll have to talk about scheduling. We talked about that now or later. One of the emails that I distributed this evening was from a couple or 2 people who live in Stockton who have asked that you consider meeting during the day rather than at night, because they would have difficulty driving at night. And again, you traditionally meet in the evening, and for people who work, we find that evening meetings accommodate them. We have also received another email that was forwarded to you and distributed to you as well this evening, which has some suggestions too about how you conduct the meeting. And I won't go into that unless you have specific these questions about that. I know you've all seen it, so.
All right, thank you. I think, Peter, you were first.
I just wanted to make sure I understood you properly, Bev. It's a site development permit and a conditional use permit, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay, just-
Just for clarity, conditional use permit is for the signage. The
Okay.
use itself,
Is it permitted use, but the sign is different?
That's right.
Okay.
Peggy?
Regarding the evening versus the day, I believe the evenings provide the opportunity for many more people to attend because people do have jobs, they do have daytime commitments, even if they're babysitting their grandkids. So I recommend we
I agree with Peggy. An overnight stay might be a viable option for the Stockton individuals.
Yeah, could be. John, you got any comment on the time, the day or night?
I would agree with the other commissioners that nighttime would best serve the largest number of people. Also, while I have the floor, I'll just say that I said earlier that I had mixed feelings about the amount of time allotted to the applicant. Those mixed feelings were resolved when Ms. Shane reminded us that we have the opportunity to ask for more information. So I'm happy with where we are so far.
Okay, I think that makes it unanimous then that the 15 minutes potentially set aside for the proponent will be eliminated. Okay? Let's see, and then I think the consensus is that night meetings does serve the public better than a daytime session would. Okay?
And so the next question is the amount of time.
Yeah, well, if there's going to be 100 people who want to talk, yeah, 3 minutes is going to be fine. Now, if there was only a handful, we could be a lot more flexible and allow 5 or whatever. But my reading is that there's going to be a lot of people. I don't know whether it'd be 100 because it could get repetitive quite a bit and so on, but maybe so. Everybody has the right to speak, and we will honor that. But I guess if there's 100 people, there's 100 people, and we'll deal with it. So,
and you're correct. That's, again, we have no idea how many people are to speak. We did receive 200 letters of comment on the negative declaration. So that's
Okay.
an indication to me of the degree of interest in this particular project.
oh yeah, a lot of interest. Peter?
Mr. Chair, Bev, how many people spoke at the first Mountain Springs hearings? Do you remember? It was well over 100.
It took, in fact,
We were up there for-
notes on that. It took, I don't know how many people, I didn't count that up, but it took, the planning commission had 20-hour total hearing time.
And then the board, because I was still working here at the time, you and I sat up there through, that was 3 nights, wasn't it? Three or 4 nights. So, and that was at 3 minutes, correct?
Yes, 3 minutes.
I would encourage us not to go more than 3 minutes because that was a long, long time to try to pay attention and be listening carefully so you heard what they were saying.
The planning commission meeting lasted 20 hours total over, I think, 4, maybe 5 evenings.
And it was a 3-minute limit? I mean, that was a 3-minute limit, okay.
3 minutes still goes that long.
Well, there's a way to make this a little more efficient and to have people line up rather than come from their seat up, and we've done that in the past, and that works pretty well, I think, and we'll do our best, but everybody's able to speak, so be there. I'm sure you will. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
With concern in the past about timekeeping, are we going to set any rules or any ways of showing how long you have left?
Well, we use, as you recall, the grand jury comment on that.
Right.
We have a sign right now that says you have 1 minute remaining, 3 seconds remaining, and you're done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's important because I really hate to have to remind people that they've exceeded their time. I mean, some people would consider that rude, but I'm just trying to stay within the bounds of what our procedures are. And so when you hold those signs up,
It's helpful.
make sure they see them, will you?
Well, I would hope we could arrange the room a little bit better, because we won't be.
Well, we won't be here, so we can have a,
So that
yeah.
we would be able to do that, because, right, it is not that easy when the staff is sitting here.
I understand. Yeah, okay. Yes, Peggy.
Consider that.
Perhaps we should look at 3 colored lights, red, yellow, green.
Well, the board made a commitment to look into that for this room, but the county does not have that at this time.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Shane, what sort of sound system will we have access to at Faith Hall?
Actually, the facility has its own PA system, and also our department has a portable PA system.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and check that out ahead of time, so
Yes.
there's nothing worse than a meeting and nothing works, and I don't know. Yeah. I've been there and done that. Okay, any other comments on what we've done for procedures before I go to the public?
Oh, well, just about the length of the meetings. If you want to, you don't have to decide tonight if you don't want to, but if you feel you're going to stay with 6 to 10, or if you think you might, you always have the option to extend it at the time if you wish. You can always extend the curfew.
Okay, well, well, I don't think we want to go beyond 10. There's some of us that don't react too well. In fact, after about 9, where they go.
Or if you wanted to start earlier.
Well,
I think that defeats the purpose of working people.
Yeah.
That will be difficult for me because I'll be coming from the Bay Area. So.
Let's stay with 6 to 10, and if we don't get it done, we go then. Hopefully, the next night, if we possibly can. We'll have to see what the dates are. But we want to do this and make a decision. We don't want this thing hanging around till next year or whatever. But so if it takes 2 days, it takes 2 days. It's fine.
If I could ask, then I have the calendar flipped up to December. Your second meeting in December is on the 16th. Which would be the more likely of the two. So if we start on Wednesday the 16th, if you're available on the 17th.
Okay.
That's again more likely than your first meeting, or first week of the month.
Okay. Anybody got a problem with the 17th?
I'm looking right now.
I don't think so.
Do we need a roll call, Ms. Shane? Availability?
No, because you're not voting at this point. When after you've heard the public comment, and then I'll ask that you vote on the procedure.
Thank you.
Finalize tonight, because that will be your actual final decision. But I don't need roll call.
Okay.
Those dates are fine.
Okay.
Good for me.
All right. With that, I think hopefully everybody's followed this discussion. If not, you can ask more questions. But anyway, we welcome input from the public on what our procedures are prior to adopting them. Yes, sir. How many would like to speak? Okay. Well, if it's not too much trouble, why don't you just line up over there and take you as you come. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Plan. My name is Gary Newbert. I'm a resident of Columbia. I'm president of the Columbia Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate the opportunity to determine the procedures in advance because I agree it's going to be a heavily attended meeting. The Church of the 49er during the Christmas season is going to be, the Faith Hall is going to be decorated, and I understand there's going to be Christmas trees all the way around the room. I just found that out when asking around.
Maybe that's a good thing, Gary.
Well, yeah.
Keep us all calm.
Right, keep us in the spirit.
Okay.
And the elementary school is having their Christmas concert, I think, Wednesday the 16th in their auditorium. So I think we need to work around those for December 16th. There is a group in Columbia that's organizing the opposition point of view. And maybe there's an opportunity that we can work with the commission to present our viewpoints. We're responsible for a lot of the correspondence that you received, and certainly there's nothing that we can do about any other citizen that wishes to speak in opposition to the project, but we can certainly lend ourselves to organizing our presentation and how we're going to present our speakers on the issue. But I just wanted to make those comments.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Incidentally, you do not have to identify yourself. Gary volunteered, but you don't have to.
I think I probably should anyways. My name is Michael Minkler. I'm a land use attorney based out of Arnold. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Cross Development, which is probably why I should identify myself.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, you're on behalf of?
Cross Development is the applicant for this project. Primarily just here to make sure my client gets a fair shake in the development process. As Ms. Shane stated, this is not a complicated project. It's a relatively small retail project on a lot that's already been developed. There aren't really any complex environmental issues.
Stick to the procedures, would you please? Don't try to sell us the project.
I'm not trying to sell. I don't want to get into that. What
do you think about the procedures we're talking about?
The point I was making is that this has already taken more than a year from the time that the application was filed, and after reviewing the file, I really don't see any reason why we can't get this to a hearing in front of the commission in November. I'd like to see if we can make that effort still, because it's really dragged too long already. One clarification I'd like to ask about the hearing. The 3 minutes per speaker, is that total, or is that their affirmative comments and their rebuttal or their rebuttal?
3 minutes from the time you come up, like you just did now, you'd have 3 minutes. Now, if in our wisdom we ask you a question, well, certainly you can respond to it, and it doesn't count.
Right.
And then during the rebuttal or rebuttal, the 3 minutes would still apply.
Yes.
You get another 3 minutes
more.
So basically 6 minutes for each person speaking.
Well, theoretically,
right.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. I've never actually seen this style. It's almost like a moot court. This is what it brings to mind. And in one sense, I think it's great. You get a very good iterative process going. You get a lot of dialogue. You're going to get a lot of really in-depth input. On the other hand, it's going to certainly slow things down again. So that's okay.
That's the system.
That's
We're here to be thorough.
Well, the main priority right now is getting this item to the Planning Commission, and having the meeting at another facility that really was kind of. My client was told that that's going to happen and that they're going to have to pay for it without any consultation. That was just demanded of them. They're fine with it. They've been fine with all the conditions that have been put on it. Even if I've encouraged them sometimes to push back, they're doing everything they can to bend over backwards and comply with all the county's demands. But the delay is what has really gotten to a point now where we're having a hearing to discuss the hearing, and the actual hearing's not going to be until December. I've had conversations with planning staff suggesting that we might be able to get it there in November. So that's really the point that I wanted to make.
Okay.
That we've really waited long.
We hear you, but with 200 and some letters, why this has not been a even flow kind of thing. But thank you for your input.
One last point, if you don't mind. That brings up the developers or the applicant's opportunity to address the commission. I think you're correct that you're going to have a lot of the documentation, the information about the project, but what you're not going to get is the applicant's opportunity to comment on the controversy that's swirling around this, the 200 letters that were received. I've never seen an applicant's affirmative remarks taken away from them, where there's a public hearing without the applicant having an opportunity to speak. I would strongly ask that you reconsider that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, John.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to comment on the first speaker. I didn't get an opportunity. I'm pleased to hear that the citizens of Columbia are pooling their efforts to come up with a response collectively. I think that's a great idea, and I wanted to encourage them to put it in writing and submit it before the hearing so that all the commissioners have a chance to study it before the hearing. And that way, when presumably someone, a representative of the group, could stand up and say, I represent the group that submitted this information. Did you have any questions about the information? I think that could be a great way to disseminate the information and at the same time streamline the process. Similarly, for the second speaker, I think if the applicant has an opportunity between now and the hearing to submit a letter or any number of documents with his opinion about the way the process is going and answers to the kinds of objections and community feelings that have been generated, and we would welcome an opportunity to have those in writing and study those before the hearing also.
Okay, thank you, John. Good suggestions.
My turn?
Yes.
I just wanted to make the comment at 6 o'clock in December, it's going to be dark. That was it.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks.
That's one thing we can all agree on, probably. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I just was wondering, I'm hard of hearing a bit, and I'm not sure if I got it all right, but am I to understand at the meeting we will get a few minutes for public comment, right?
That is correct.
Does that include the applicant for Dollar Store Generals? Are they part of that public?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because I was wondering why, since we already know where they stand, so I was just questioning why they would be considered public opinion.
Oh, yeah, well, it
is, huh?
It's a lawful public hearing.
Okay.
Pro and con, rebuttal, sir, rebuttal.
Okay. I just thought since we
all
all
knew.
knew.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm a member of the public, and I want to thank you very much for saying that everyone who wishes to speak at that meeting will be allowed to speak. I really appreciate that. And I agree with Mr. Minkler that I think the applicant should have a chance to speak ahead of time and make his case. I don't know if he necessarily needs 15 minutes. I agree with that a lot of stuff could be submitted ahead of time so that people could keep their comments brief, but you would have time to digest the information they wish to submit. I think that's fair to you and everyone else. But I believe the applicant should have a chance to speak on his behalf. And I would be okay with them going first because that's the reason we would be there. And then my other comment was that I have a concern that there was a government affairs meeting at the Chamber of Commerce on Monday in which some people sitting up there were present at that meeting. Carl Rodefer, as a county supervisor, was there, and the applicant, which I believe Mr. Minkler probably is familiar with, presented his case to the Chamber of Commerce. At that time, I believe Mr. Rodefer recused himself, believing that the issue would probably come before the supervisors, and he didn't want to listen to their presentation. However, I'm not going to out you, but if some of you were sitting there and listened to that whole presentation, I kind of have an issue with that. So, thank you.
Just to clarify, I was at that meeting, and I made it very clear I would not participate in any discussion. My ears were open, my mouth was shut, and that is a legal participation, like it or not. Peggy?
Yes, same thing. I was at the meeting as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify, as planning commissioners, one of your jobs is to listen to the public, whether it's in a public forum or when you visit a project site or meet with the opposition. You can do that. There's nothing in the law that says you can't. In fact, you are encouraged as planning commissioners to get as much information as possible. You are required, and you all will, disclose at the hearing that you have heard information from outside the actual hearing. And that is the actual legal process.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I also attended that meeting, and it wasn't a recent meeting. That was quite a ways back, as I recall. I wanted to clarify John's suggestion about sending in comments previous, because, John, I'm hoping you're not saying that we want to limit the people getting up and speaking their thoughts at that point in time. Is that what you were attempting to do?
I'll be happy to address that. No, I'm pretty sure that no one would try to limit the number of people who speak. Everyone who wants to speak gets their 3 minutes.
Okay, good. Thank you. I agree with the rules and regulations you've placed at this point in time. I think that would be a streamlining process. The only thing possibly that I would think of on maybe rebuttal and sur-rebuttal, maybe cutting that back to a 2-minute presentation if there's going to be a whole bunch of people there that want to talk. That would be my only suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a comment on the sound system at Faith Hall. My wife, memorial service was there in May. They have one microphone and one small speaker, so I wouldn't count on that for the hearing. We did a hearing there 10 years ago on the mine, and I think we ended up with about 2 mics at the table and 1 in the audience, which again was inadequate. So we need to have a good system there for a meeting this big.
Thank you.
Take it or leave it.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
First of all, I want to thank the commissioners for having it held in Columbia. I really appreciate that. Since the Columbia Area Planning Commission was disbanded last July, it means a lot to the community to be able to be in their area and express their concerns. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. It shows some sensitivity. The other thing I wanted to support was in speaking about the 2 venues, even though I agree the church is more comfortable, but I think that the church actually had some concerns about the parking being adequate and well lit at that time of night. So we have to think about people that have limited mobility and things of that nature in that parking area. So I know they did express, in addition to the Christmas trees and all and taking up space inside their facility, that there may be the parking wasn't as good. So when you go into that decision of which venue, those are some things that the church had, issues with. So again, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody. Bring the matter back here. Do we want to probably take a motion to adopt what we've been discussing, or change it, or what would the commission like to do?
Mr. Chairman, may I present a motion?
Please.
I move that we adopt the procedures for the Columbia public hearing. I won't specify a date, depending upon availability.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Mr. Chairman, would I get clarification? Does that include the 15 minutes for the applicant?
It does not.
It does not. Okay, so it'd be the procedures as proposed, excluding the 15 minutes for the applicant.
Thank you.
And I second that.
All right. Further discussion?
I have some discussion.
Yeah, go ahead, John. Sorry.
I would appreciate a fuller description of what the procedures are that we're voting on.
Okay, Ms. Shane, that's a staff job.
The procedures would be to open the public hearing and provide approximately 15 minutes for the staff report. Commissioners then would have opportunities to ask questions of staff. Then the public would be invited to present testimony, speaking in favor, in opposition, neutrally, rebuttal, surrebuttal. All speakers at each of those opportunities to speak would be given a maximum of 3 minutes. Commissioners can ask questions of each individual speaker or staff throughout that process. After the conclusion of surrebuttal, the hearing would be closed and the matter would be referred to the Planning Commission for deliberation. The commissioners can ask questions, ask for additional information, decide to make a decision that evening or continue the matter. We, at this time, would also schedule a meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. and in the meeting at 10 p.m. if, with a 4-hour limit. The commission always reserves the right to extend that time, assuming it goes well and they're in deliberations, they may want to do that. But if there is a need to continue the matter, our goal is to continue it to the following evening, and also that we would find a venue in Columbia for the hearing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, just one last clarification. After the 15-minute staff report, commissioners can ask the applicant and staff questions before anyone.
Well, typically it would be staff, but if you had a question about the project, and the way this was written because we were giving the applicant an opportunity.
So we're striking that
too. You could certainly do that because you're getting clarification about the project.
Okay.
If you want to know why that, are they required to have their corporate colors on the building?
Okay.
I mean, that's a question I could not answer as staff, but that's something that about the specific project that you may want to ask the applicant for clarification before you open it for
I think in the past, the easiest way to do that is when the proponents get up to make their 3-minute testimony, it's very appropriate to ask them questions while they are at the microphone. Very appropriate. Okay, anything else? Okay, I'll call the question. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Rott.
Aye.
Commissioner Mosley.
Aye.
Chairman Plan.
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Prisabella.
Aye.
I'm getting better at it. And finally, Commissioner LaTorre.
Aye.
Okay, the motion to approve the procedures for the future public hearing to consider the Dollar General project in Columbia has passed by unanimous vote from the commission.
Okay, that winds up the item. Our next item, incidentally, unless you're really interested in 80-foot tall poles, you can leave any time. Your choice.
Well stated, Mr. Chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Good job, Dave. I cleared the room for you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is public comment on anybody can address the commission on any item not on the agenda. Anybody wish to do that? All right, I don't see anybody. We'll close that. We'll now go to public hearing, and we have one item called Jones. It has to do with the construction of a new 80-foot tall monopole with 12 antennas and so on out there on Camage Avenue. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carolyn Lenhart and Epic Wireless are proposing to replace an existing 20-foot tall monopole with 2 antennas that was previously installed for Golden State Cellular on a 5-acre parcel that is owned by Olga Jones at 14971 Camage Avenue. The existing pole was only 20 feet in height and was one of the exemptions to our wireless communication ordinance. But the new pole will be supposed to be 80 feet tall, which does require a conditional use permit under the county's zoning ordinance. The monopole is proposed to be installed by Verizon, who has acquired Golden State Cellular and is in the process of upgrading telecommunications facilities throughout the county. So you may be seeing more of these in the future. The pole will have 12 antennas on it, and the one today only has 2 antennas. The placement on the monopole is in the same location as the current one, but again, the current one didn't require compliance with our zoning ordinance, it was exempt from it. Because this location is near open space zoning, there is required 200-foot setback. The location of the existing pole is only 120 feet from that parcel with the open space zoning, and so a variance is also being requested to allow the pole to be 120 feet instead of 200 feet for the setback. This is similar to what you recently approved over in the Roland area. There's a variance in the setbacks as well. Because this pole is proposed to be over 75 feet in height, it was reviewed by the Airport Land Use Commission under the ALUC's Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. Any antenna or structure that is over 75 feet anywhere in the county, even though it's not within the referral area of either of the airports, does get reviewed by the Airport Land Use Commission. Commission considered this project as meeting on August 6th and determined by unanimous vote that it is consistent with their compatibility plan. We did contact adjoining property owners of this project. We received one response, and that response was in favor.
Any questions of staff? Let's see, 80 foot, that doesn't require a light on top, does it?
No, 200 feet is the average.
200?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Any questions of staff? Okay, don't see any. We'll open the public hearing. The way we run this, proponents speak first, opponents speak second, and if there are both spokespersons for both sides, then we go to rebuttal and rebuttal and or neutral in there too. So with that, proponents, please.
Good evening. My name is Karen Leonard, and I'm representing Verizon Wireless. Staff's done a good job describing the project. We are excited to be here in this market with the purchase of Golden State Cellular. We're investing a lot of money right now into the community to start offering LTE services so that customers and emergency service providers will have better coverage, as well as we'll be able to start offering data services and so forth. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the project.
Any questions? Don't see any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry.
Speak up, John. We got one on the telephone here. Go ahead, John.
You're just too fast for me. Thank you. I just was curious whether this taller tower would provide cell service coverage in the business district of Standard.
I'm sorry, where?
Town of Standard.
The business district in Standard.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
I think the map showed that it did.
Yeah, it's right next to Camage.
Okay, yes, it will. Thank you.
Yeah, the map, those maps in there were very helpful, I thought. It showed how far it would go.
Yeah.
Peter. All right, sorry, John, does that answer your question? John?
Actually, I wasn't clear on the answer.
Okay. Peter? Oh, you weren't clear?
I was going to wait for John to be clear.
Commissioner LaTorre, the answer is yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
My question is slightly different. It will be for Verizon, people that have Verizon service, it will be better in Standard, but that wouldn't necessarily be true for any other provider, correct?
Correct. The tower will be available for co-location if another carrier chooses to install antennas on there.
Because no offense, I don't have your service, and it's totally dead in Standard. So I would hope they would do that.
Well, Verizon will be good there.
Well, there we go.
All right, no commercials allowed. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other proponent would like to speak? I don't see any. Any opponent would like to speak? Don't see anybody. Anybody wish to speak neutrally? Don't see anybody. With that, close the public hearing. Bring the matter back to the board for disposition.
I would like to make a motion in favor of Findings.
Page 2.
On page 2 there, for the Community Resources staff recommended conditional use permit, CUP 15-006, findings A through F, and the variance 15-002, based on findings A through F as well.
And I'll second that.
Second item.
You did.
Yeah, the conditional use permit is one and the variance is the other. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, he got the variance too.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
He did.
I snuck it in
Where
there.
was I?
They were both A through F.
I told you I
That's
run
part
out
of the
of
problem.
gas early.
And I'll second that
sorry.
motion. And second the motion.
You second, we have motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A motion has been made by Commissioner Wright and seconded by Commissioner Prezabilla to approve the conditional use permit and the variance for the monopole, 80-foot tall monopole. Please respond by yea or nay. Commissioner Wright?
Yay.
Commissioner Mosley?
Yay.
Chairman Plant?
Yay.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yay.
Commissioner Prezabilla?
Yes.
And Commissioner Latore?
Yay.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, I believe that winds up our business for the evening. Thank you for the discussion. Thanks to the public for their participation. And with that, we'll see you,
Do we know the next?
Sometime.
Yes.
November 4th.
November 4th, we do have 2 items, 2 small reruns.
Close the meeting.
All right, great.
Sure I have that.